All right. So hopefully you're getting a little nicer weather, at least hopefully some sun in the UP today. Let me start off with introductions. If I haven't got to meet you before, my name is Colleen DeLange. I am a trainer and now the director of education here at my Role Source. A little bit about my background, why I teach this class and kind of put this class together is because when I got my license 24 years ago, I never got really any training on the MLS. And so I was excited when our CEO brought me on board and said, hey, you know that training thing you like so much? What about going and doing that? So anyway, here I am. So thank you for joining me today. I have to tell you, you're coming from one of my favorite places. I think I mentioned before, I spent a lot of time up in the Keweenaw Peninsula growing up and just past Eagle River on Highway 1 in the far tip of the Keweenaw and loved it there. So I'm very jealous. But what we're going to talk about today in one of our final in the series, I know we did like 8 classes or 7 classes, something like that in the last 2 weeks. We're going to talk about the Collab Center. I think the Collab Center has never been more important than it is right now. I'm also going to show you an enhancement that you're going to see a lot more in tomorrow's class. We're going to talk about the Collab Center and how it's really being reworked into Paragon Connect, which is tomorrow's class. So I'm excited you're here. A little bit of housekeeping, just if you haven't joined us, I know we've got, I think, 2 new names on the list here. I like to keep these as interactive as possible. And since I'm not standing in front of you, I still want you to be able to ask questions. So in your GoToWebinar panel, which is probably minimized like a little reddish orange arrow over at the right-hand side of your screen, if you click that open, you're going to find 2 important boxes. One is the handout section. I have to say, as an agent, we don't ever do these things every day, right? You don't set a new buyer up every day in Collab Center. You don't write a contract every day in your contract forms. So it helps when you have cheat sheets that you can go back to, that you can refer to. So in the handout section, I've placed 3 cheat sheets for you. You can save them to your computer. They're kind of like checklists. I love cheat sheets, so they're attached if you would like to download them. The other one is that questions box. As I mentioned, I'd love you to ask questions. One, it lets me know I didn't put you to sleep, which is good. And 2, if you go into that questions box, if you fire off a question, it alerts me on my screen. It's a pretty small group today, so if you ask questions, I should be able to get to them right away. All right, so with that, we're going to take a look at the Collab Center. With the low inventory that we have right now, I don't think there's ever been a better time to learn about the Collab Center, right? As working with buyers, making sure that they are getting those up to the minute notifications that a new property just showed up. Because let's face it, if they wait 2 days in this market, it's gone. So you want to make sure that they're getting those properties immediately when they hit the market. And there's some really cool things to this. I'm going to give you a couple examples and then we'll go into it. The Collab Center is really a hub. And what it is it's really the MLS. It's really Paragon, but it's where you're setting up your buyer so that they get those notifications. You can customize their haves and wants, but it does some other things too. If you've taken my classes before, you know, as a practicing agent, I always say in real estate, you cannot make this stuff up, right? I literally had um, a, a closing with just a gem of a lady. She's one of those people that is your client, but becomes your for lifelong friend. And so we're sitting at the closing table, and she goes, "My sister just said she's ready to move, and so I'm going to give her your information." I'm all excited. I'm like, "Oh, great, a referral already, right?" And I was kind of thinking, with this lady being such a doll, her sister must be the same way, right? Nope. I think they're polar opposites, actually. My second call with the sister was explaining that if she got one more yellow sided house in her email from me, because it's coming out from the Collab Center, that she was literally going to find another agent. 2 problems. One, she had never mentioned she didn't like yellow siding. So first I would have to know that. Well, there is no button in the MLS that says remove all yellow sided houses, right? So there's something called the agent preview. If you have a difficult client or is very specific or has specific needs, I'm going to show you how to set most of those up today. But for those difficult clients, you can also set up agent preview. I'm going to show you how it works, but basically it comes to you first. You then can say, yes, I want my client to get this, or no, I don't want the client. So In this case, I could see the yellow siding and hit remove. I could then see white siding and say approve and have it sent out to her. So there's some great workarounds in the Collab Center. There's also something called agent recommended. I had a first time home buying couple, again, can't make it up. If they said to me once, I only want to live in St. Clair Shores, they probably, not exaggerating, said it 50 times. They didn't want to see anything outside of the city of St. Clair Shores. Happens to be a waterfront city over here where I am. And so they did not want to look. If I ever tried to steer them off the path, they were very adamant that they only wanted to live in St. Clair Shores. But as you know, there's no inventory. So I knew sooner or later, with their haves and wants list and their price being where it was, I knew eventually we were going to end up outside of St. Clair Shores. But how do you tell them that, right? So there's something called an agent recommended. So my best friend, who also is in real estate, she's the manager at Real Estate One, she called me and said, hey, you want to go to lunch today? I just have to drop off some listing paperwork to my new listing, and then I will meet you. And I said, really, what did you list? Guess what? One street out of St. Clair Shores. So my buyer, on their automated search, they didn't get this house, but when she started describing this property, I knew from the bottom of my toes that this was their house. It was every single thing that was on their haves list. So what I'm trying to say is, a lot of times we as agents, we sometimes know better than the buyer knows what they're going to end up buying, right? So in agent recommended, it allows you, even though they didn't get it in the automated fashion, so it hits the market 30 seconds later, it goes to your buyer. Even though they didn't get it that way, I could still go in and put that listing in the Collaboration Center, so it literally pops up in front of them and they could see it. And sure enough, I said, just let's take a look at it. Just 5 minutes, take a look. We walked in, the happened, right? And we wrote it at the kitchen table and we literally closed it the next month. So what I'm saying is, real estate is great, but it's not perfect in the automated world. It still needs us, which is why these other sites that people worry about taking over will never happen, because they can't smell a listing, right? They can't, there's a lot of things they can't do. They don't know the floor plan or the layout, and they certainly sometimes don't know what the clients don't even know they're looking for yet. Anyway, long story short, these tools are all built into the collaboration. So what I'd like to do, kind of teach this class backwards, and I hope that's okay. I like to show it to you first, because there's nothing worse than me showing you how to set all this up and you go, oh, I don't think my clients would like it, right? So I'm going to actually take you on a tour of the Collaboration Center first. Then I'm going to show you how to set up your searches so that they can go into the Collab Center and they can see all of this. So as an agent, I kind of like to see the finished product first. Show me what I make sure I really want this. But the thing I want to stress here is, we have so many buyers today that think that Zillow is the king, or Redfin is the king, or how they're searching is the king. But think about this. This tool is actually the MLS, okay? It is the actual MLS database. It's just the back end of it for the client, so it's cleaned up and pretty and easy to use, and they can search with their fingertip, all the things that we've heard that they like, right? So I have had tremendous luck getting them off of sites like Zillow and other IDX sites by saying, hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to set you up like an agent, so that you see everything up to the minute, because it'll take them just 4 or 5 times calling you saying, hey, Colleen, how come you didn't send me 123 Main Street? And you look it up and it closed 30 days ago. You know what I'm talking about? It happens all the time. So I'm going to show you some ways that you can actually get your buyers off some of these popular search sites by just showing them in 30 seconds. If it's pending, you'll know it's pending, because it is the actual MLS database. So let's actually start there. So let's start. I'm going to turn off my fuzzy here so that you can actually see what we're here for. All right, so the Collaboration Center. Now, this is the biggest, this is so funny, because I get this call at least once a week, and people will say, Colleen, you told me under resources was my agent toolbox, where I find all my tools like ShowingTime, Cloud CMA, RPR's link, we've got market stats and all this stuff, but where's the Collaboration Center? Well, the problem is the Collaboration Center is really Paragon. So there is no button. It's really just setting up your saved search with your client's contact information, so they immediately get it. So you don't even need a button. It's really that easy. So this is the only tool besides taxes that you really won't find under the resources section. This is always going to be just your contact married to the search that you've saved for him. I think I mentioned though, your clients can even go in and do their own searches, which we know they like to do. They can also edit a search that you've set up. Now, why do I like that? Because if they've, let's say they increase the area that they're looking at, or let's say even better than that, let's say that they increased their price, it's going to notify you, the agent, that they've made this adjustment. So I can call and I can say, hey, I noticed that you increased your price range. Are you not finding a lot? Okay, is this what we're searching up to? So it allows you, again, to collaborate, hence the name, because you're seeing what your buyers are seeing. You can get copied on everything that goes to your buyer. So it's really a way that you and that buyer can collaborate and be on the same page. So again, when you're looking for the collab center, it's going to be under your contacts. Now, here's the first part I like as the agent. How many times do we wonder, have they logged in recently? Are they getting the things that I'm sending them? So this is the first part I like. When you go in here, it'll show you when you added that person into the collab center. So this date added column, when they last physically logged in. So when they last went into the collab center, and when their last house or listing prospect got sent to them. So it's tracking all of that. So I can see right here, Barry Buyer, who's a fictitious buyer, which is why he didn't log in. Barry Buyer has not logged in. So I can see houses are ready to be sent to him. I can see he was added properly, but we can clearly see he has not logged in yet. So I like that I can see all of that. There's also that, remember I said agent preview? If you set them up with an agent preview, if a new listing comes out, it will ask, do you want to approve it or do you want to disapprove it? You can also click on the number and open it up so you can clearly see it. That's always helpful, right? But let's take a look at what the collaboration center looks like. So, because I always want to know, is our buyer going to like this? Are they going to find it easy to use? Is it going to be easy like Zillow is for them? And so this is actually what they see when they go into their collaboration center. If a new listing comes out, of course, it will send it directly to their phone. That little pop-up will appear, and then they can see any listings that got sent from the last time that they logged in. Now, I like this because for me, what if they got 3 or 4 notifications and they missed them? We want to make sure when they log in, they're seeing everything from the last time that they logged in, and that's how this works. So as we can see, they got sent a new property today. It's active. Here are the details. Now, if they like the home, they can favorite it. They can flag it as a possible. Maybe they want a spouse or significant other to see it. By the way, you can set up spouses and significant others and alternates so that they see all of these notifications, and they can even collaborate together. They can also reject a listing. They can create custom folders or even see 2 listings side by side. So when they're into, let's say they like the look of this right circle. And I'm going to go ahead, click into view the detail. That's going to take them in where they can see things like, the high resolution photos. They can obviously scroll through. It will format to their phone or their tablet. They can see the MLS basics. I like that it's very clean and simply laid out. They can see tax information, HOA information. They can see the property history from here. They can even see seller's disclosures and lead-based paint disclosures from here. And they have a mortgage payment calculator so they can crunch the numbers. If they like it, they can go ahead and simply favorite that listing. There's also some tabs along the top. They can do a street view. If you were in our previous classes, we talk a lot about this when we're talking about CMAs. Working in such a large area, sometimes you want to actually see the neighborhood. Well, the good news is your buyers can see it right from their computer or their phone without ever having to drive across town to see what that neighborhood looks like. So I love that, especially with gas prices as high as they still are. Of course, you have your map view, your photos, and again, you can break each one of these down so that they can go into that specific tab. I like one other feature, and I'm going to show it to you. It's called the showing time carts. But here's what usually happens to me. I don't know if I'm alone in this, but generally what happens is they'll heart something or favorite something, and it comes to you, the agent, right away. So I get the email notification, and it says that Mr. and Mrs. Schmegegi like this property. Then I call Mr. and Mrs. Schmegegi, and I'm talking to Mr. Schmegegi, and I say, hey, when is Mr. Schmegegi available to see it? Oh, let me call Mrs. Schmegegi. We'll get back to you. They call me tomorrow. The property's pending, right? So kind of sound familiar these days. If they favorite properties, so let's say that they went through and they favorited, let's say they went through and favorited three or four of these. There is also a place on each one of these listings, should be active here. There's also a place as they're going in, they can tell you when they're available. It says request a showing. Now, this is not setting up a showing appointment for them. So let me be very clear. This is just requesting this time for you. So they can go in, they can ask you questions from here so that, you can answer if they, if they have a question of, can we have a dog here or something like that, they can type that in. That comes to you via email right away. However, instead of having to pick up the phone and finding out when they're both available to see this property, I ask my clients to simply favorite it and then put the time and date that they're available to see the property. Then it notifies me that, and I can start sending in those, I can basically use showing times cart to send in those requests for the showing. So I know when we're going to start. And then I usually tell them, okay, I'll confirm back with you when I have, I see you want to see this property, and this property. And when I have the showing set up, I will confirm with you. So it at least eliminates one more extra step or one more phone call. So all I ask my clients to do, again, is to log in, to favorite the houses that they like. They can reject anyone that they don't. And they have that dashboard right up here at the top so that they can quickly see anything I've recommended, how many they've rejected, and the nice thing is if they've rejected a ton, they can see that too. It might mean we have to increase our price or maybe decrease our haves and wants a little bit. So it's also a good indication of what's going on in their buyer search. And again, I'm going to show you how to turn all of this on in just a moment. So from here, they can also save folders, things like that. But I want to show you where this benefits the agent. So one, I like that it's very simple. I think clients find it very, very easy to use. In the client's hamburger stack over here, when they log in for the first time, they can set up their own property searches. They can adjust the search that you've set up for them, unless you turn that feature off. By the way, if they're searching all over Michigan and driving you crazy, you can turn that feature off. They can save folders, and again, they can communicate with each other. So there's a whole, under their login, they have these hamburger stacks, which basically allow them to do all the functions they can do on the other IDX sites that they're used to. But let me show you why I like this so much on the agent side. So they can go in, they can obviously favorite all of these listings. But on the agent side, what does that do for me? So I'm just going to close this out. So let's say I just got a notification that Mr. and Mrs. Schmegegi are interested in those 4 or 5 properties we just favorited. So when I click into Mr. and Mrs. Schmegegi, it's again going to show me, okay, they have, what did we say? I think we favorited 5 here. Mr. Schmegegi favorited 5 listings. If I want to immediately start setting up showing appointments for those favorited houses, you see where that number 5 here is, right in the favorite section? I can actually say, okay, these are the 5 that they favorited. Little tip, it's not really part of this class, but I'll just throw this in. I have had the pleasure of working with some super great agents over the last, what's it been? Over the last 24 years. I have been more blessed than not blessed, but every once in a while you have some agents that you just hit it off well, and you just know you're excited to see their name come over on a PA, or excited they're showing one of your properties. So I had a few where if they never sent another purchase agreement, I could probably live with that and be okay. So keep in mind that if you want to add the agent name, not that I would never not show one of their listings, but if I'm going to show 5, I'd probably put them at the bottom. So long story short, if you want to add an agent's name to your search results, you can do that. I like to see who has the property listed in my area, and doing this for quite some time, I know most of the agents over here, so it gives me a good bird's eye view of what that experience is going to be like with that agent. So if you are like me, you kind of like to see who has it listed, you can always go up to customize your results fields. Now that means it only customizes it for your results. It's not changing anything else. But if you'd like to add a particular field, like that agent name, you can find it in the list, or you could just type in agent. It will show you agent remarks. I already have the agent name in here. But once you click add, it will add it right into your results. You can also drag and drop that in any order you want. So maybe you want agent name a little closer to the front. You can actually drag that, save it, and it will remember that in your preferences, and it will move that agent name right up to the front for you. So just a little tip, if there's something there in your search results or something's not there, remember, you can add something that you'd like to see. Maybe you want to see price per square foot each time. Maybe you want to see the agent name in your search results. You can do all of that by simply going in and doing the customize. If there's something you don't want to see that you're like, geez, why is that there? Why do I always have to scroll over? You know what? You can always remove that as well. So it's really customizable. I also do like to see price per square foot. So that's, where did I just see that right here? So if I want to move that over, remember, you can do that from here too. It's kind of like an Excel spreadsheet. So don't be afraid to grab a column. If it's really to the other side and that's something you use all the time, don't be afraid to adjust these columns so that they work better for you. It will save your preferences, as you saw just a moment ago. And then when you log back in, it will remember that. That makes it a little bit easier for me. And for a long time, quite honestly, I didn't know you could do that. So I wanted to show you. So these buyers have said, these are the 5 houses that we'd like to see. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to check them all. And here's where it gets really helpful for the agent. I don't know how many people have ever used the showing time carts, but I love the showing time carts. I can also see right here, it looks like there is one duplicate. So I'm going to just deselect that. We try to deduplicate everything here at My Real Source. Every once in a while, they'll put them in multiple boards and then we got to go kind of deduplicate it. Another little tip here is because I've now taken that one out, my OCD, I have a little OCD, so my brain kind of works like, probably not like everyone else's, right? And it would bother me that I have this one listing, or like, how do I move it out of the way, right? So if you're like me and you like just a nice clean sheet of what you're working with, I would recommend hitting that check button at the top. Now you've got just the listings the way you want them. Now I want to drop them in to schedule my listing or my showing appointments. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to click the actions button right here. And I want to drop this into showing time. Now, if you're like me, I had always gone in and scheduled my appointments one by one. You go in, you click on the listing, then you got to grab your phone and see, okay, how close is that one? Where should I start? How long is it going to take me to get from here to here? It really kind of is a pain. So let me show you a little bit better way. So, you know what, I'm going to see if I can switch this back here, because I think more people are going to be familiar. I've been beta testing the new version of Showing Time. I don't know if everybody's been testing it out yet or not, but it's just not. I know most everybody, at least so far, there's been a few things I really liked about it, and there's been a few things that were not my complete favorite. So I'm just gonna take you back to the one that you'll know a little bit better. Make sure I switched it over here too. Apologize, I forgot. In the beta testing part that just switch it over with me. Seems like it's taken a second. Around the screen. I know not everybody has started beta testing it, and I kind of want you to see it like it would normally be. So bear with me 1 second while I wait for it to bounce back. Take a couple of seconds. Me and my fabulous ideas have always trying to always show the next up and coming great thing, right? Mm. All right, so let me see if that'll push me back. 'Cause usually it takes a couple seconds. So, but I want to show you going in, doing that scheduling, and it makes it so much easier. And unfortunately, from here, it's what I found in the new version is it's just a little bit different. But I want you to be able to see it in the way that most people are going to experience it. So, all right. I've got two screens going, so I think I'll be able to keep an eye on it. So we'll come back as soon as hopefully it will bounce back to the older version. I can show you very quickly how to go in and oops, how to be able to how to be able to just throw it in the showing cart. So I apologize. I forgot I was in the new version. A little easier to show you in the traditional showing time that everybody's used to. So, but it takes a couple seconds to bounce back and forth. So we'll go to the next part of Collaboration Center, and then I'll come back and show you how to finish up your showing time cart. So it makes it just a little bit simpler. All right, so you're probably thinking by now, okay, so there is no button for the Collaboration Center. How do I go in and turn the Collaboration Center on? And when you're thinking of the Collab Center, think of it just as a traditional search that you're setting up. You know how you can save a search? I'm going to show you. If you don't worry, because we're going to do that. All it really is a saved search that you've married to a contact record. So it's really that simple. So there's no button, there's nothing you have to go find or special place to go to because it's really as simple as searching. So the hardest part is really setting up your search. By the way, if you've noticed my screen looks a little bit different than yours, the outside here is actually the same. So the quick searching, the icons at the top, except I have an admin panel, obviously for staff. You can move these boxes around. You can drag them where you want. But my center section, obviously, I am not part of the Upper Peninsula Association of Realtors, sadly. So mine is controlled by the MLS that I'm at. We also, where I am, have a brokerage page too. So the only difference, again, the program will be the same, but the center section might look slightly different than you're seeing. So I just kind of wanted to explain. All right, so let's talk about setting up those buyer searches because there's a couple key pieces. If you go to search up here, that's where you can pretty much search for everything. So you can find your saved searches that you maybe set up before. You can run hot sheets if you like to call for sale by owners, or if you like to call expireds, maybe you're big on calling expireds and for sale by owners in the morning, and you want to run how many listings expired for today, and you want to call those, you can actually click on the hot sheet. And you can put in some detail that will allow you to see things that expired, and then you can get contact information if you're big. That was the big thing to do when I first got my license. I know not many people do that anymore. But then I always get asked, well, Colleen, so you're in search, I see hot sheet, but what is the auto hot sheet? Well, the auto hot sheet just remembers the last time you logged in and gives you everything on the hot sheet from that point. So let's say you're really good about, you get up every morning, your goal is to call 20 expireds and 20 for sale by owners, and you run your expireds and 5 days go by and you're like, okay, now I want to see the next batch of expireds. You don't want to run a whole nother search and find stuff you already called, right? So that auto hot sheet remembers when you last logged in, and it gives you everything from that point forward. So it's kind of helpful. You can also see like your inventory, open houses that are coming, agent and broker inventory. So a bunch of searching you can do. But really the one we want to do is we want to set up our detailed buyer. And we want to set it up with, maybe he wants a 2-car attached garage with a finished basement. So you can actually set it up with a great level of detail. So I am going to go to search by class. And I'm going to say that this particular buyer is looking for a single family home. If you're new to Paragon or you're just getting started, remember, if you don't know what goes into a particular field, you can always find that out by clicking on the magnifying glass to the right. So if I click on that magnifying glass and I say, oh, he's not looking for a condo, he's not looking for a farm, he's just looking for a single family home. That's really what it's asking for. Your fields may be in a slightly different order than mine. And why that is remember I told you you could customize whatever fields you like. So if I want to add a particular field, like I'll pull this one out. I was teaching in Detroit a couple days ago, and someone said, Detroit is so big, we can't really just search by radius. We need to be able to search by zip code. So you could just type in the word zip, that's all you need. You could add zip code to your search. It always drops it at the bottom. But again, if you'd like to rearrange it so it's up at the top, if that's something you use quite often, you can just drag and drop it wherever you want it to be. And then just remember, you want to go ahead and apply that. All right, so another one, in this particular case, I'm looking for a single family home. I am just looking, I don't want leases, so just what's for sale. I'm, of course, looking for all actives, but remember, every MLS is different. Some have accepting backup offers, some have coming soons, and some do not. That's where you have to check your UPAR board staff to find out what your policies are. Generally, if you don't have a status, it's grayed out. I do like my buyers to see coming soons, even if you don't particularly practice coming soons at your association. Keep in mind, you still may see them coming through the data share because we share with 97% of the state. So what does that mean? You may see them coming in from another MLS. So you do want to know what all of those statuses mean. I personally, I'm going to be totally honest with you, I hate the ABO status as an agent. ABO is accepting backup offers. And what that technically means is, well, according to our Red Book, and according to license law, if we get an offer, we have to present it. So even if it's after the fact, we've always had to accept backup offers. But now there's a status for it. What it really means is there is an accepted contract on that home. They are choosing to keep it on the market like an active so that they can still continue to show it. And I don't have a problem with that, except that some agents forget to tell their buyers what that status means. And so the problem is, and this has happened to me, it can be ABO sometimes right up until like the day before closing. And problem is your buyers, who are probably disappointed like so many right now because they can't find what they're looking for, if they don't know that going in, it can be very kind of gut wrenching. They get all excited, they write an offer, and it closes the next day. And so ABO just means that there's an accepted backup offer on the property. Again, even if UPAR doesn't allow that, you'll see it grayed out, and that's fine, but just be aware of what that means because you will see it coming over from other MLS platforms. Okay, so I'm not a big ABO person, so I might want to deselect that particular one. And then, of course, we're going to put in our buyer's price. So maybe they're looking between 300,000 and 700. I should be so lucky. I usually get the 100,000ers these days. All right, so here's a good little tip that is not really in the class, but I got so frustrated one day and I'm like, there has to be a better way to do this. So let me share a tip with you that has helped me a lot. And it really has to do with finding the right cities. If you've taken classes with me before, you know that one time I set up a new buyer, it's kind of new to Paragon, set up a new buyer, and there were 5 Clinton townships in the state of Michigan. Now, in my brain, I guess I thought there would be 1 Clinton township like per state. I guess in my brain, that's how I thought it worked until this. So I picked randomly a Clinton township, and my buyers didn't get any houses, and I couldn't figure out, well, what's going on. Why are they not? Well, I picked the Clinton township that is way on the other side of the state, and there was nothing in their price range that they were going to afford over there. Long story short, knowing when you have 5 Clinton townships, or in your case, a good one that I pulled up was Houghton. There is multiple Houghtons in the state of Michigan. I did not know this. So how do you know you're picking the right one? So let me give you a couple little tips that help me a lot, and I think will also really help you. So here's my example. We'll use Clinton just to start out, and then we'll go to Houghton. When I start typing in Clinton, you can see there's clearly multiple Clintons. And how would you know which one of that there is, right? These first 2 numbers are actually federal identifiers. So they actually tell you which county it's in. But as agents, we're not going to memorize all those numbers. Just let me start there. I will never be able to tell you what 46 is versus 50 versus 68. So a better way to do that is where it says county down here. If I type in Macomb, I can see every city or township or municipality in Macomb will start with 50. So if I were actually looking for the Clinton Township in Macomb County, well, I know it would start with those two numbers. Okay, so that probably makes sense, I think. If you're like me, I'm still too lazy to do it that way. So let me show you an even easier way. If I only want the Clinton Township in Macomb County, I can go down to the county field because remember, you're not just searching UPAR anymore, right? You're searching in this greater, maybe you've got family down by where I am. And, I'm probably, an hour and a half north of Detroit. Maybe you're selling grandma's house down here and you want to be able to see those. You can, but you want to know which city you're looking for, right? So if I pick Macomb County in the county field, when I go back to area and I type in Clinton, I only get that one. So it's a way, if you're looking in just Houghton County, you could type in Houghton County. You're only going to see that particular city for that county. Now, that's kind of a big, you can see I'm kind of jumping up and down here from county to area. That's one of those times I would recommend moving those two fields really close together. So maybe I want to go in and I want to move my county close to my area so that I can put that in first. Okay, and that would be a really good example of why having these in the right order can be really helpful. So again, now when I'm doing Macomb County and I type in Clinton Township, I am only seeing that one particular Clinton Township versus if I didn't put it in, now I am seeing, and I hope this is making sense. I'm going somewhere with this example, I promise you. I can go ahead and I can see all the Clinton Townships because I put nothing in the county. So you're probably thinking, okay, so that may help you once or twice, but I want to show you an even more important example, and it kind of ties into that. So that's kind of why I went this direction. Bear with me, I'm going somewhere on this. So I'm looking at Clinton Township in the 50, which is Macomb County. And again, we'll do Houghton next. You kind of get the idea. But let's say you're working with an investor and he comes to Amanda on the call and he says, Amanda, I like everything in Macomb County, but East Point and Fraser. Okay. So instead of Amanda going in and putting in all these different cities or going to the map and trying to draw out this huge map and exclude all these areas, which can be more cumbersome, what if I told you you could actually look up all the cities at once, check them all, and deselect one or two that you didn't want? And it's really helpful if you have an investor who may be looking in multiple counties. So let's say you have an investor looking in 2 or 3 counties, but there's 3 or 4 cities he mentioned he's not interested in. Well, you certainly don't want to have to go in and add 75 cities minus 3, right? And you're trying to dig out a map and figure out where everything is. That really wouldn't make sense. Or doing such a complicated map when you got to figure out where the counties are starting, and it would be a little more cumbersome. So let me show you a quick tip. Next to area, there is this magnifying glass. So, and I'm just going to use the one I'm most familiar with, but I'm going to say that I want to find everything in Macomb County but those 3 cities, and I want to add them really easily to my search. So instead of it containing those, it's actually going to begin with. So I'm going to say I want to see everything that basically begins with 50. What this just did is I can see there are 26 cities in Macomb County. And hopefully this is making sense. I know I promise I'm going somewhere here. So I'm going to change this so all the records can be displayed. So I've got 26 cities here. And my investor says he likes everything except for East Point and Fraser. Instead of me pulling out a map, do you see how I individually listed each one of those cities minus the 2 that he didn't want to see? It's a lot easier than searching a whole county and trying to go back and excluding certain areas. So I hope that helps. You could do the same things. I'm going to take those counties out. You could do the same thing if I go to Houghton County, 31. All right, so I'm going to go back to my magnifying glass. I hope this is making sense. At least it helps me. Hopefully it helps where you are too. I want to change it from contains to begin to. I want to do 31. I hit my enter key. Now I'm seeing all 21 municipalities in Houghton County. So let's say he wanted everything But maybe he didn't want Calumet. Actually, Calumet's so beautiful. You'd want Calumet. Maybe he wouldn't want, can't think of a non-beautiful place up there, but Torch Lake's beautiful. Oh my gosh, it'd be tough. Okay, I'm just going to randomly select one. You get the idea. So if you have an investor who is interested, especially if you're doing multiple counties at one time, it's a really easy way to add all of those areas in quickly. All right, so let's go back to some of the basics. So we were looking for a single family home. We were looking for, we're just going to do, let's say he's looking in, I'm going to just pick an area around me. You could do a city. Actually, we'll do some mapping. I'm going to say that he obviously wants to see things that are for sale, things that are active. I'm going to say he's looking for a ranch style home, so 1 story. He's looking for 3 to 4 bedrooms. And again, maybe he's looking for 1.5 to 2 full baths, so we can go ahead and put in our bathrooms. But let's say we're getting into a little bit more detail now. Let's say that he says to Amanda, Amanda, I want to make sure that we have a finished basement. So if Amanda just selects basement here, that buyer's going to go ahead and get everything that has a basement. But if that buyer said, Amanda, I only want to see finished basements, we need that extra living space, we want to put a movie room downstairs or something like that, then just selecting buyer here isn't going to be enough. We've got to add a little more feature. Now for you guys, and I apologize, I know when you first came on board, it was very difficult, and my apologies. There was so much geography differences. For instance, one of the big things where you guys like to search on the Great Lakes, like Lake Superior versus an interior lake. And we didn't really have that set up because none of our other associations had said those were important feature codes for them. There were also things like just many differences because of the geography, being on the bluffs. There were so many. I think we added over 400 different features just for Utah. And really, it's because the geography was so different. So I apologize if it was a difficult transition. I know it was a lot. Somebody having some technical problems. Sorry about that. So in this case, we're going to say, yes, they wanted a basement, but they wanted a finished basement. And yes, they wanted a garage, but they wanted an attached garage. How do you add that extra level of detail into your searching? So that's really done with features. So I'm going to go down here to the feature section. And features work like this: must have, must not have, or must have at least one of these options to go automatically to that buyer. So let me explain. Must have, let's say your buyer says to you, we must have a finished basement. You can actually start typing the word in finished, and that will pop up. And in order for it to go to that buyer, it has to have finished basement selected in order to go to the buyer. Okay, let's use another one. I had a husband and wife who were just going through a really bad divorce, and she ended up moving into his home right before they got married. Long story short, they were going through a divorce, we're getting ready to close, and we're where we are in Michigan, or where we are in Macomb County, you have to have a pass or fail well and septic. And so what happened, she ended up asking about the well and septic. He said it was brand new. Actually just turn the space heater off because it's making it awfully hot in here. He said it was brand new, and unfortunately it was not brand new. It was actually 17 years old and leaking like a sieve because unfortunately he had put a swimming pool on top of it. If you know anything about septics, that's not a good idea at all, and it was crushing the actual ground into the pipes and everything was leaking. So turns out right before closing, they ended up finding they had to have a $30,000 raised engineered septic field added, which on a $130,000 listing, you can imagine that's kind of a big deal. And so when she called me to buy her home, the first thing she said was, Colleen, don't ever show me anything on a septic. I don't want to see a home on a septic field. I don't want to know they exist. I don't want to ever deal with it or maintain one. So in her search, it was really important that I put must not have septic. So anything with a septic field did not go to her. So hopefully that makes sense. Then you have the must have one or more. Maybe you have a client that works at home, and maybe I had a client that made gun handles. They were actually, she'd make them out of precious materials. Like she made some out of jade. They had like jade on the outside, and she'd make custom little handles. It was kind of cool. She needed a lot of space to be able to do that. And so she's like, Colleen, I either have to have a pole barn or a workshop area to be able to build these. So it had to have at least one, either a pole barn or an oversized lot that she could actually build a pole barn. And so it had to have that an oversized lot so she could actually build a pole barn. So it had to have at least one of those items. So how do you know what features are actually there to use? And let me show you how to do that. So where this features is, if you want to find all the features, because there's thousands, by the way, you can click on that magnifying glass and it will open up the categories. So in this case, finished basement, if they must have a finished basement, go to that basement type and I can say, okay, must have a finished basement. Really, really easy, right? Same thing for garage. We talked about has to have a garage type here, has to have an attached garage or they don't want to see it. So these are those ways you can add that extra level of detail in. Things like lot, outside structures, lot types. I know we added a lot under utilities and things like that as well for UPAR, but some other good examples are water features. One of the big things, as I mentioned, was for you guys was being able to search by interior lake or Great Lake. Must have a Great Lake, must be on the Great Lake to go to that buyer. I have a buyer right now who's got a boat, and he says, you know what? I don't care if I have lake frontage or if I'm just on the river, but I can get my boat there. And if it's on Harson's Island, which is very close to here, that's fine too. Or even if it's on the canal frontage, as long as I can get my boat down to the water, I'm happy. Want to be on Lake St. Clair. So must have at least one of those. So as long as it has one of those options, no matter which one the agent picked to label it with, it's automatically going to go to that buyer. So I hope that's kind of helping. All right. If once you've got your search set up, and by the way, your search setup is always right here. So if you need to modify something or you need to change something, you can always go back right to your criteria and you can change it from here. Now you're probably thinking, well, Colleen, you've got 1,400 homes. Well, we didn't put in the most important thing, right? We're looking for location, location, location. So I really, in most cases, when a buyer is calling, they kind of have multiple ideas these days of where they want to live. So it's not like it used to be where the buyers are just looking in this little small section anymore, right? They're looking in larger sections. They may want to exclude a section. Sounds like somebody's still having some problems getting in. I get little pop-ups from her saying I can't get in, but see if I can send her the recording after all. Get a little help. Sorry about that. Just, I think she's having some problems with the getting in and getting bumped out for some reason. So I just want to make a note to send record. Okay. So when you're setting up your buyers, your map, when you click into the map, it's actually going to open to the office location. You can change that if you'd rather have it, this X that it opens to, if you'd rather have it open to, your house address, or you'd rather have it open to the area you're working in, you can put in any address. You can do that under your preferences, and that's where your map will open to. But in this case, let's say that this buyer, I'm going to show you some kind of good examples on the buy side now. This buyer is looking, let's say we'll do, kind of zoom in. Maybe they want to be close to work. Maybe they want to be within 5 miles of work. You could actually type in an address, comma, the city. And I always say use the route street address, leave off the drives, the ways, the places, because it's Google Map. And you really want to just use the route. So if it's drive, way, circle, court in the name, this happens to be Wessel Drive, leave that off. and find it that way. So let's say he wants to live, he gives you his work address, he wants to live within 5 miles of there. You could do that. You could say, we'll do 2 miles. I want to do a 2 mile radius search and find all the actives for him in that 2 miles. As you can see, there's not a whole lot there. But most buyers today, they actually are even more specific, right? They are maybe searching down to particular neighborhoods or I'll actually show you an even better idea. So let's say that you are working with a buyer. I'm going to move in a little bit here, and they really like this area. There's a couple subdivisions. You can see the schools listed on the map here. There's a couple subdivisions that they really like in here. So you want to be very specific. So I'm going to use my Polygon because that's my favorite search tool, by the way. And I'm going to say, you know what, this particular buyer does not want to, he wants to, let's say, stay west of Hayes, doesn't want to go south of 18 Mile Road here. And I'm literally just clicking all of the places that I want to start and stop my search. So let's say he really likes this lake area, but let's say his mother-in-law lives over here, so he doesn't want to go too far north over by Utica. Don't want to be too close to the mother-in-laws, right? And so we're drawing out our search. So you can be as specific as you would like. And you can do up to 10 different map searches on your map for a buyer. So I'm going to say maybe he also really likes this area over here. And again, you can do multiple searches, but then I had a good friend of mine. You can see that there's 2 right here that popped up. If I click on it, it's going to show me those 2 listings because I only selected active. We kind of covered this a little bit in the Cloud CMA class too. Again, you can even tour the neighborhoods. You can kind of go in just like we did with the Collab Center. You can actually see the houses to the left, houses to the right. You can actually walk the neighborhood right from the maps. You can kind of check it out. They can do this in the Collab Center too, by the way. But then a friend of mine brought up a really good point, and this was such a good example, I had to use it. So I have a good friend, she's one of the top sellers in Macomb County. I did my very first deal with her, and it was actually really funny. She is a no-nonsense kind of person. It was my very first deal, I kid you not, can't make it up in real estate. And it was an FHA deal, and it was 24 years ago. And I remember writing it out and didn't have a lot of help or training, I will tell you, when I started. So I wrote it all out, and I remember handing it to her, like sliding it across the table, and I'm all nervous. And I remember her literally picking it up and ripping it in half in front of me. And then she returned it back to me and said, you can bring this back when you know how to write a real offer. And I remember at the time, like feeling crushed, like, oh my gosh, what agent does that? It helped me grow as an agent, though. I will tell you, to this day, I really, really respect her. I had written in, I think it was 5% for concessions on FHA, and as you know, it can only be 3. So I had a lot of learning to do, and she picked that up very clearly. But anyway, now we're very, very good friends. But I always like to tell that story because, again, only in real estate. But when you're looking at this map, the way it's standing right now, it is very hard to know exactly what county you're looking at or what city you're looking at, because right here, I actually have 3 cities that are on this map, but it's really hard to tell that. So she happened to call me, and I still get flutters when she calls me, like, I hope I didn't mess something up. She called me and she said, Colleen, I don't understand the map because I have somebody who's a volunteer firefighter, and he has to live within this particular township. He can't live 1 street out of this township, because if he does, he won't be able to be on the volunteer firefighter. They have to be close enough, obviously, to get to a fire, and they have to live within the city boundaries. And I said, okay. So she said, how do I know when I'm drawing my map for him, and I've got all these cities, where the cities start and stop? So if you have a buyer in a situation like that, you kind of have to know where the municipality lines start and stop. Excuse me. So if you go up to this toolbar right here where we started drawing our outlines, there are these layers. So you can actually click on those layers, and there's a lot you can add. But let's use that example. Let's say he had to live in a particular city, but I need to know what the cities are to know if where I've drawn is going to work for him. You can actually apply municipality, And you can hit on and it will even tell you this is the city of Sterling Heights. If you zoom in now, it's going to show you where the street. So I can see that the other side of Hayes is actually Clinton Township. And the west side of Hayes is actually Sterling Heights. And you can get very, very close. So you can see the actual starting and stopping points of these. But I thought that was a really good, especially where you guys are, because it's such a big area. So if you have something like that where someone has to live in a particular school district or municipality, you can add those things right here. You can add attendance zones, school districts. Another one I really like is let me take this off so it's a little easier to see. If a buyer says to you, you know what, I'm not interested in anything I have to pay flood insurance on, and you want just a visual outline, just looking at the FEMA maps, you can even apply floodplains to your maps. I don't know if you can see that close so you can see it better, but this actually put the FEMA floodplain. Now, I tell everybody, this is not a survey or like buying an elevation cert. That's not what this is meant to be. It's just kind of a visual indicator of where we need to, ask if we're going to need flood insurance if you're interested in one of those homes. So I like that those types of layers can be added. If you have a buyer who says, you know what, Colleen, I really like that area, but we're looking for a little bigger lots. We don't want to be right on top of our neighbors. I'm sure you hear that a lot up there when you've got all that beautiful outdoor area. But if they're looking in a kind of a particular area where there's more homes and you kind of want to see, are the homes on larger lots? Are they really close together? You may want to use that layer feature again. And if you scroll down a little bit further, you can also see our parcels right up here at the top. If I want to add in those parcel lines, now here's the thing, with parcels, you really have to zoom in. You probably saw that little pop-up that just appeared on the screen. When you're using parcels, the parcel lines will give you, so this is one large parcel, but it will give you the lot lines and the lot dimensions as well as a view of that home. So even if it's not listed. So I think that's kind of neat if they say, well, I was looking at that corner lot and I hear it's going on the market or I hear it's going into foreclosure. This is a great way to go right into the parcel. You can click on it. You can see the parcel lines. I can see the frontage. I can see the lot size, the area and the perimeter, and I can also see that Google overhead shot of that lot. So I just thought it was really cool. A lot of people don't know it's there, but remember, those additional layers can really be helpful when you have a buyer that's looking for something very specific. So again, if you run into one of those odd scenarios where that buyer has to work at a particular municipality or something like that, that's a great way to add that extra detail. I also want to show you that, okay, so we've drawn this shape, right? But there's nothing here. We see in our other shape that we had 2 available properties. But he really likes this area. He gave us the rough outline of where he wants to live, but there's no homes for sale there. So instead of now making a huge area, what you can do is you can actually go to this edit and you could click into your shape and you could say, okay, well, he really kind of liked this end of the sub. Let's see if I open it up a little bit more, if I get anything that's for sale along that area. And sometimes just opening it a little bit more, something will pop up. This is really helpful too when you're looking at comps and you're using the radius, which is a little bit more of that circle. So I opened it a little bit more and you can see, yep, now I did have one home that popped up with his price range. As you can see, it's accepting backup offers. Not a whole lot for sale in this particular city, but it's a way to kind of expand it without going too big, just kind of moving those points. And how we did that is we just took the shapes that we drew. So we drew our shapes on here. We went to edit and we clicked into the shape. And that opens up those points where you can make the shape larger or smaller, like you can in most maps. When you're ready to close it, that same concept, just click on it. But what if there's a city, let's say that you have this big city that you highlighted, but there's an area that they don't like, a little small area by the train tracks, or maybe their mother-in-law lives over that way and they want to exclude that one particular area. So let me show you how to do that as well. So if that buyer is really specific with you and he says, Amanda, I don't want to live in that little haze point right here. Don't show us anything there. You can actually draw a shape on a shape. So let's say that they don't want to live in this little haze point. I'm just kind of drawing a shape. You can actually draw your shape on that city or on that particular shape you've drawn, and you can exclude it. So the buyer won't ever get anything that falls within that shape. So if they've clearly said, we don't want to live in that northeast area, we don't really like that, it's just, not our thing, we want to stay more north, you can actually just exclude a small area for that buyer search too. So it's, with buyers being more and more exact, this is a great way to try to outline exactly where they may want to live. Okay. All right. So for the sake of time to go forward, because we're going to jump more into the Collab Center again, for our sake of time, I am going to just jump back to our criteria. And I'm just going to say that these buyers are looking for pretty much, we're going to make it easy, everything in Sterling Heights. And there are 17 homes right now. So when I go to search, that's going to now show me my 17 homes that popped up that I'm going to send them in the Collab Center. Now, if you've ever done any searching in the program, the searching is exactly the same. But what I want to do now is I want to take all of these results and I want to push them out into the Collab Center so they get everything at once. They log in, they see all 17 to start looking at, and then anything new from that point immediately is going to pop over to them. So I'm going to say I want to send all of these, but maybe I don't want to send the ABO. So if you wanted to even sort them that way, you could do that. Remember, you can kind of customize this. I'm going to go ahead and say I don't want to send them the ABOs because they're really kind of already under contract. I want to send them these additional 13 listings. So it's as easy as I mentioned. You're basically done all the hard part. You've put all the haves and wants that your buyer was so specific about. You've now put everything together, and what you want to do is you want to be able to send all of those over. I am getting a little pop-up on my screen here that is saying that the internet sort of went in and out. Hey, Amanda or Kingsley, if you can hear me, can you just pop something in the questions and let me know that you can see the screen? Can you see that says listing count 13 on it? All right, I'm not sure. Kind of looked like that there might have been some little bit of technical difficulty. So hopefully you can still see my screen. I got a little worried because it said that there were internet connection issues. So I always get worried. All right, so we've got all of these particular properties selected. And now what we want to do is we want to push those over into our saved search so we can turn on our Collab Center. So we've got them selected. We're going to go ahead, and the key is to just save search as. That's how we're going to save this search and marry it to a contact record. When I go here, this is what we're naming our search. So I want to name this search. We'll call this Kingsley's search. From here, I want to go ahead and I want to also put in the contact that I want it to go to. So we've got our search name, but now I want to add our contact. So I want to say, we're going to call this Kingsley. Oops, I just spelled buyer there. Sort of fat fingered that. And now I want to put in that buyer's email address. All right, and now I'm going to hit save. That's going to allow me to save and notify that buyer that I'm turning on his Collab Center. Okay, so I've got the buyer set up here. I'm going to send my welcome message. But let's say, Kingsley, your buyer, let's say that he is a big investor and he's getting a bunch of emails every day and he's kind of like, you know what? I'm getting too many of these. You can actually even go up options and you can go in and you can put that you only want to send them maybe every Monday morning at 9 a.m. You can pick a time and date, or maybe you only want to send them weekly. Maybe you want to send them at a certain time. Maybe you only want to send them during the weekdays. So you can actually customize when you want them to go out and what time you want them to go out. So if they're feeling a little overwhelmed, that you can actually set this up so it's automated and they're only going to see it at that time. You can set it up so it CCs yourself. And you can add others, maybe if it's part of a group and you want more than one to see the notifications, you can also BCC a group. But there is a place right in the Collab Center to add a spouse or a husband or wife or maybe two business partners so that they both get the notifications. They both can log in. They both can save things. They can compare things. They can leave notes for each other. So it does have that capability as well. All right, so from here, I want to now send that welcome. Now you can customize what goes out in that welcome message. So basically I could put, here's that MLS tool that we talked about. Let me know if you have any questions. You can put in your own personal message under your preferences. And I'll show you where to do that in just a second. But basically, once you send this welcome, they're invited to start using the Collab Center. And that invite comes out from you so that they recognize it and they can go in and start favoriting things right away. As I mentioned, you can also do that agent recommended. So that agent recommended simply allows you to go in, and I'm going to keep getting these little internet notifications. I'm just going to turn my camera off and hopefully that will help because I want to make sure that the screens don't lag or fall behind. And we had a very bad storm here. So you never know what's going to happen like that, right? So if I want to do an agent recommended, that's that listing that doesn't come up automatically, but maybe I want to go in and agent recommend a property so that they still see it. You can do an agent recommended and simply put in the listing MLS number. And then that allows me to pop that up in their Collab Center. And now I can, when they log in, they see, oh, my agent recommended this. They still see it as part of their Collab Center. So it's a way, even if it didn't come up automatically, because maybe it didn't meet their exact search criteria, it's still a way for them to see a listing that you're promoting that you think would be good for them. All right. The other one, once you've got this set up, if you want to add in, let's say, another spouse or another partner, or maybe another business partner, right inside their contact information, once you've set them up, you can go in and you can add a secondary name. So maybe this is Mrs. Schmegegi, and we're going to put in Mrs. Schmegegi's email. And you can also have those notifications sent to Mrs. Schmegegi. So you can actually allow that person to get those notifications and be part of this group. Inside your Collab Center, you can also set up kind of a CRM, maybe a mini CRM, if you will. It doesn't have a ton of CRM capability, so I don't want to mislead you and have you think it's this great CRM, but you can create your own custom groups. So my son Jake goes to Catholic school over here, and I like to keep track of how many sellers or buyers actually come from the, because I do the water bottles, and I do sponsor some of the stuff. And so I like to see, am I getting some return on that value? I'd like to see, are they, am I closing a couple deals from spending that money? So you can actually check off, maybe I want to set up Jake's school as a part of my CRM, as part of my groups. And then when I'm putting a new contact in, I can check that off. So that way at the end of the year, when I want to set up my postcard mailings and I want to send out a thank you to all the sellers from Jake's school group, I can easily do that right from here. If they're, let's say that they've purchased a home and that they're not looking to get these notifications any longer, I don't want to delete the contact. because I want to still keep my contact so that I can do those mailers and I can still stay in communication with them. So keep in mind, you can actually inactivate them so that they don't get those notifications anymore. You still keep the contact records. You can still keep them in your CRM. All right, so hopefully that makes sense as well. The last thing is right up here, we talked about that agent preview. That agent preview is where it sends it to you first. And then if it doesn't have that yellow siding, I think I used the yellow siding analogy. If it doesn't have that yellow siding, well, now you can go ahead and allow it to go directly to that buyer. If it does have that yellow siding, then you can hit disallow and they never will know it existed. So it's a way for you to basically preview it before it goes out to the client. If, let's say we'll use Kingsley. Let's say that Kingsley has a buyer, he set them all up, and then he says, you know what, Kingsley, I'm just looking for some vacant land up by my mom. Do you think you could help me with that search too? Well, Kingsley doesn't want to set up two separate accounts for this buyer. What he would really like to do is he would like to go in and just add an additional search. So I can add another search for vacant land. So I'm going to save all this information I just put in. And now maybe I want to also add a vacant land search for this particular buyer. That way, when he goes into his collab center, he can see all of that. He can see vacant land as well as residential homes. And lastly, they just recently added the seller activity. And what that means is if you are working with the buyer and you're also selling the buyer's home, so he's the seller and the buyer, right? And maybe he wants to see, maybe that buyer wants to take a look at it and he wants to see any new homes in his search, but he also wants to see, is there any price reductions in the neighborhood where he's selling his home? Or is there any new listings that might be competition for my home? So he wants to see not only the buy side, but he wants to see the sell side too. You can associate, as long as you have that property listed, you can associate his property so that he's seeing what's going on with his listing side. If there's price changes in the neighborhood, if there's a new listing that went up, you can actually see that too. And then lastly, under message history, if they call Kingsley and they say, you know what, Kingsley, you sent us a house about a week ago and it had black shutters and we rejected it, but we drove by it and we really think it's cute. We'd like to see it now. Well, Kingsley's like, geez, I sent you, 50 homes. How am I going to find that? Well, Kingsley can actually go into the message history and he can open each and every message that was sent to them with each and every home. So if they got it last week, Kingsley can go right to last week's emails and he can actually pull that up and resend it to them. So I love that there's a whole history that we, the agents, can see as well. All right, so I know I took you through quite a bit of information. I apologize. I'm not so sure. I kept getting a couple little pop-ups saying that there was some internet connection issues. I think it's due to the storm, but I apologize if you missed anything. I did record this, so you will be able to see it after the fact. In order to see this, all you have to do is to go to Resources. Right under Education, you will find recorded webinars. That basically takes you right to our playlists or right to our YouTube channel. But you really want to look at the playlist because we've set all the classes we've done up for UPAR. So whether it's Cuba Casa that we recently did or Cloud CMA that we recently did, they're all here in this list. So all you have to do is click on the playlist and go to the Upper Peninsula Association of Realtors. It'll show you all of the classes. The newest ones will be at the top. This is the Paragon Tips and Tricks from 219. Here's our Cuba Casa class. If you haven't checked that out, it's very cool, from 215. So you can actually just click into the class and you can fast forward right to the part that maybe you missed. I hope you didn't miss any, but I do apologize if you did. With the storm banging outside my window, I can't promise anything, but hopefully you were able to follow along today and hopefully there wasn't too much lag. Let's see. I don't see any questions here. If you have any questions, now is a great time to go ahead and throw those in. Nope. All right. Well, in that case, I am just going to, let's do this. I am just going to thank you so much for your time today. Again, hopefully there was not too much lag. I got a couple of messages, so I'm a little nervous, and there's not a whole lot of people asking questions. But if you need to reach support, remember that you do have tech support that's available 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. In order to find that tech support information, let me show you where to go. So tech support information right here under the help button in Paragon, it will give you that phone number for tech support, which is 248-247-1040. Again, 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. You can also send a question to tech support from here. And as well, you have those recorded videos that you can access, again, right through Paragon under the resources section and under recorded webinars. All right. Well, thank you everybody for your time today. I hope you have a great day. I hope this helped get those buyers all set up, and happy selling.